All right. So welcome, everyone. I'm Suzanne, and this is Richard. We're
Hi.
here with Asheville Yoga Center, and we're here to talk about how to transform your life using yoga. And I just wanted to take a moment to say hello and see where all of y'all are calling in from and see maybe how long you have been doing yoga. And so if you'd like to go ahead and tap in the chat, wave, I can see you in Instagram. Awesome. Hello, Jennifer. Hi, happy Seema, and all of y'all tuning in there. 12 years of yoga, and you're right in Asheville. That's awesome. Thank you so much. And so I think what we're going to have here is a trajectory of experience, right? So we'll try to keep the conversation ranging in depth so that we all get something out of this. So new and experienced yogis alike.
Just like our trainings.
Yeah, exactly. So sometimes in a yoga training, it's funny, you might have a complete beginner who's kind of stepped into the studio within the last few months and been like, oh, this is nice, I want to do more. And you might have someone that's been practicing for like 30 years and is ready to dive deep. And that's kind of the beauty of the range of conversation and experience and community that these YTTs bring. But so I see more of you coming in. I love Rich Fabio the best. Agreed. I hear wonderful things about his teaching and so forth.
It's Jen.
Awesome.
Oh my God. Hello.
Awesome. Okay, so I thought we would start with some intros about ourselves and about our experience with yoga, going back to the beginning as zygotes and then moving to where you are now. Do you want to get us started?
Yeah. So YTT has been a part of my life for a lot of years now. I sort of came into yoga. I was a meditator first, and then I was wanting to take care of my body in a little bit deeper way and still have that mindful, present component. And then it just sort of became this natural fit where I was like, I'm really, really into this. I don't want to do anything really else with my time, and just whatever that next step meant for me. And it was like, do a teacher training. And so I took the Asheville yoga teacher training many moons ago now, over 10 years, 12, maybe 15 years ago. And it was, haven't really looked back. So I started with the teacher training, then I started teaching classes. Then I ended up here and leading the trainings, and they can't get rid of me is what I'm trying to say. But I just love yoga, and it's a really a huge part of my life. And so, yeah, that's a quick little intro.
Awesome. What would you say you were looking for at the time? Or I know a lot of times people have like, they're going through times of transition in their lives. What was your life like at that time that made you choose to dive into yoga?
It was definitely a transition time. I was definitely in this phase where it's like, okay, the job that I was working was like not working out. I didn't want to keep doing that. I was really, really certain that I love yoga and I want to do more of that. And I kind of had to like repick. My lease was ending where I was living. I was like, do I want to stay? Where do I want to go? And there was just this great 4-week training happening. And I knew I was really into yoga at that point. I knew the Asheville Yoga Center, knew the teachers who were going to be part of it. I was like, yeah, let me train there. And it was like, after that, it was a pivot moment where once I was done, it was teaching. You
didn't look back.
Just
kept going.
Just kept going. Yeah.
That's awesome.
So yeah, it was that moment of like, yeah, things are shifting in my life. And it felt like there's a lot of uncertainty there, but I knew I loved yoga. And so that was I just leaned into it a little bit.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome.
How about you?
So for me, I came to yoga through a series of, I'll call them happy accidents or traumas. They are big moments to pivot and transition in the same way. So car accident, 5-car collision. I was in the middle in a tiny car, and, my back got pretty messed up. And so that was the beginning. That's when the chiropractor was like, you need to go take some yoga classes. And there was an amazing studio right next to my chiropractor office. And they were so friendly and so nice. And at that time, I had been probably in a social circle that was a little bit dark and leading a lifestyle with some, let's say, unhealthy habits. And this really showed me another way to live that was joyful. And so I just kept following that. And then over the years of being an artist, and eventually and taking classes, eventually I decided, hey, I just want this part of my life to grow and grow and grow. Similar to you, it's like once you step on the path, it's kind of hard to turn back because it feels good. It feels good to work on yourself physically, mentally, emotionally, psychologically, and it feels good to be in community with a bunch of other people that have similar goals, right? And so after that experience, eventually I also had other injuries and near-death experiences surrounding blood clots and yeah, just almost passing from that. And the yoga really helped me cope with these major healing crises that I was having throughout the years, because I have some genetic predispositions. So I used it to heal myself physically and emotionally and deal with the psychology behind some of these big experiences I was having. And then later on, I started to study Ayurveda, got into health coaching, healed myself, healed my friends, and eventually started to take on clients and did health coaching for a number of years, along with teaching students in yoga studios, traditional yoga studios. Then later on, I went into like more therapeutics and one-on-ones. Yeah, and now I'm here helping out with the YTTs, supporting in any way that I can, doing these webinars with you. And yeah, that's kind of it. But I would say similar to Richard, it's this idea of you step on the path and it's kind of like you never want to stop learning because you fall in love with the teaching and you fall in love, you just fall in love with the practice itself and you keep learning about yourself and how to grow and expand your capacity, which is pretty cool. So I see a question here. It's how can a yoga training at AYC help me if I don't necessarily want to teach at a studio?
Mhm.
Do you want to address that question while it's
Yeah.
hot, and then we'll
We have
come here.
we have a couple options. There's the training is an immersive, transformative experience. It is learning. I even often use the phrase sharing yoga because, yeah, we give you the technical skills throughout the training on how to teach yoga in a studio setting, very much so, but it's also about being a yogi and just living as a yogi. And that is really the key piece that is fundamental, that you're not just becoming a teacher, learning how to say instructional words, but that you live it. Otherwise, honestly, it gets kind of boring being a teacher, even if you are going for the teaching route, to just learn the script of how to teach. It's the thing that I would even invite you all to think of your favorite yoga teacher. They are not just teaching a script. I would gamble on that there is something about their heart and who they are as a person that makes you want to go visit them on a weekly basis. And that doesn't have to be just a yoga teacher. There could be people in your life who just feel joyful to be around. And that's something that I think a training, whether it's our 50-hour or our 200-hour, probably the 300 wouldn't be applicable at that point because you would have already taken. I think that's where your question's coming from. But that it allows you to step into that part of ourselves where being a yogi is just almost like a sharing of who we are and our natural kindness, our natural desire to be well and to be whole and to offer that in sometimes the most casual of settings.
That's really, really awesome. Yeah, I would say that's what brought me coming back over and over again, was like really seeing that beautiful, compassionate light and that joyfulness within the people at the studio. And so I was like, oh, I want more of that. I want more of that. So I just kept going back, and eventually found myself in a YTT.
Okay, just one more
Yeah.
thing. So like the 50-hour program, which is really like 1/4 of our 200-hour program, is all about just deepening the practice. I'm taking my regular weekly classes. I'm noticing some shifts in my personality and my health, and I want to just know more about what is around or what surrounds my weekly physical breath and movement that I'm doing at the studio. And that 50-hour really helps give us tools and techniques and exercises to help explore how we can, I think the phrase is like yoga off the mat. It really is a 1 week or a 2-weekend immersive experience. And how does this yoga stretch out into more aspects of my life in a sort of grounded way, in a community, supported by teachers and other people who have a similar interest. And then the 200 it just continues that. And then we just add in the communication aspect, how to share that in a technical way, maybe in a classroom setting, but even still, just how to be kind and gentle in any setting if you see people who could also benefit from yoga.
Awesome. Awesome. Yeah. So it's certainly, and I would say the people that show up aren't all, they don't all have the goal to become a yoga teacher. Many people have the goal to just be on a journey of self-discovery and understand the transitions that they're going in through and how to best navigate them. But we can dive a little bit more into some of that, like what supports that transformation and what's imbued as far as philosophy. But before we keep going, I'd love to do a centering with you all. And those of you that are just hopping in, please feel free to say hello. Let us know how many years of experience you have with yoga, and we'll try to cater the talk to you, but also let us know if you have any questions along the way. So welcome those of you coming in, Sarah and Cliff. Awesome. Happy to see you here. Okay, so I thought we would do a centering and then we'll come into the depth of the kind of more philosophical conversation and the journey of transformation. Does that sound good?
Love it.
Okay. Would you like to share a centering that's common or kind of like something that we do in some of our trainings?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
One of the fundamental tenets of our trainings and just yoga teaching, in my opinion, is breathing. And so let's all just take a moment to find a comfortable posture. I'm going to sit up a little bit better in my chair here, just so that we can become aware of our spine and the part of our body that's connecting with either our chair and the floor, our feet, sits bones. If you're seated cross-legged, maybe it's your knees and ankles. Just take a moment to feel the parts of your body that are connecting with the earth. And then also take a moment to become aware of the spine, which is sprouting upwards. Begin to breathe in and out through the nose consciously. As you breathe in and out through the nose, maybe with a hand or hands, you're just going to place your hand on where you feel the breath. So if you feel your chest rising and falling, you might place your hand there. And then you just wait another moment. Maybe you notice that the belly is also moving. Some of us, our shoulders can move, our ribs. Just allow for that conscious awareness of where the breath is moving in the body. The next few, just intentionally make the breath deeper. Let's not even go into what that means yet. Whatever it means to you, whether that's a longer breath or lower in the body, or even quieter, whatever it means to deepen your breath. As you continue to deepen your breath, just place your hands together in front of your heart. And to spend just one moment in a reflection, almost like an intention setting of what brought you here to listening to this webinar, this discussion, that no matter wherever this takes you, that there is some sort of intention to deepen yoga in your yoga journey, however you want to frame that. Just connect with that feeling behind what brought you here. And one more final moment here, just like Suzanne and I and everyone here who's listening on this call, we've all gathered because yoga's been beneficial to us. And we share that. Welcome.
So, as short and sweet as that was, I think the journey inward also created space to feel a connection with you all, which is really lovely, even though we are virtual. And I think that's another beautiful part about the practice is how it interconnects you with your community, your peers, your family, your colleagues, and so forth. Um, and so let's talk just a little bit more about the journey of transformation now that we're all mellowed out.
Best time to transform.
Best time
That's the
is
end of the
it's
soil.
yeah. I know that so we talked a little bit in our intro just about the studio vibe and wanting and the gravitas of the community and the gravitas of the teachers and what really brings them there. And I think part of the journey of becoming someone that can carry that light and hold that space for other people and be that magnetic pulse that is holding that guru energy essentially has to do with the embodiment of some of the foundational principles of yoga, which are referred to as the yamas and niyamas. And these are kind of like moral and ethical precepts. And we live by these because the sages teach them because they help you become a person that feels whole and complete inside and out. But also, the idea is that the energy that you put into these precepts, you kind of become them and you exude that energy and you invite this wholeness and this love and compassion into your life through these precepts. So can you talk a little bit about the yamas and niyamas and just give us a little background? They are a part of a lot of our training programs. They're the foundation of yoga science, yoga philosophy. They are great ways to help us make the right decision at every turn when we are going through these big moments of transition in our lives. So we'd love to hear more about them from you.
Yeah. So I'll take a moment just to back up because again, we in our trainings, you can start out fairly new to yoga and you can still benefit from being further along in your yogic path. And just to take a moment, it's like, this is their Sanskrit words. They're from another language, an ancient language, let alone from far away. And as a teacher, you don't necessarily have to be super invested in Sanskrit. It's nice to know it, but there's people who are really into it. There's people who are less into it, depending on the type of community that you end up working with, sharing your practice with. But just for our own knowledge, yama, as I've come to understand it, it actually means expanding and constraining. We see this word yama and niyama, that Y-A-M-A, and even there's a word pranayama. Maybe some of you have heard that in classes, and we translate that as like breath exercises. Pranayama, the prana is sort of like the breath, and the yama part, that Y-A-M-A, is expanding and constraining the movement or the pulsing of breath, of prana. And so when you see this word yama here again, how does this come to mean ethical guidelines? And the way that it's been taught to me, revealed to me, is that we're creating containers for ourselves. We're creating almost a little bit of like how to go about interacting in the world so that you can have more yoga. So we're actually putting a little bit of a constraint, so to speak, or like, hey, it's nice to be nice to people. But why? Why do I care about being nice to people? Well, because you can have more yoga in your life when you're nice to people, because you don't have people who don't like you as much. And so the guideline is sort of like it's a little bit of a constraint. We actually know sometimes maybe it's like a little weird. It's like constraint, restraint's a weird word, but you get expansion too. And the metaphor I like to use of this idea of yama being this pulsation is like water. It's good to put water in a cup, but you're constraining the water if you think about it. But because you've constrained the water in a cup, it's now not a puddle on the floor. And because it's not a puddle on the floor, you can now drink the water out of the cup. And so there's 5 yamas, and they're sort of saying like, hey, if you explore how to be kinder, how to be more truthful, how to just move through the stages of your life in a way that's mindful, and you sort of think about these guidelines, we can call them ethics, it's going to give more opportunity, more expansion of yoga to happen in your life. And so that's how I really think of the 5 yamas. And then there's the 5 niyamas. And that word niyama. So all we added was 2 letters, the ni. And I think of those as like internal. I like to make the joke. It's like you just flip the 2 letters around to remember. You flip the I and the N. So the inward yamas. It's like when you're with yourself. When you're with yourself, and there's some trends like the moral conducts. Yamas are the ethics, how you treat with others. The niyamas are how you treat yourself or how you feel about them. And so the niyamas are how you, when you're have your own time. And it's there's a craft there of learning how to be content and learning how to be reflective. And so these are still providing the opportunity for yoga to expand in our lives. And through this sort of like reining in and just like loose, just whatever, just going by the flow, I guess. And I have honestly found that to be incredibly helpful. It was it's interesting because like they're considered like the first 2 of the 8 limbs, these yamas and niyamas. It's like start your life, start cultivating this to help promote the yoga. And I was like so not into them, Suzanne. I was like, these aren't cool. They're just like rules. I hated to think of them as rules. It was like really, really kind of I just rejected it basically. I was like, meditating is awesome, like being super still, having a quiet mind. I love that feeling. And I just meditate. And then I was like, all right, well, like now my body hurts. So now I'm going to put some asanas in so my body doesn't hurt while I like sit quietly. And then I realized, oh, I can actually sustain that meditative awareness, that wakefulness as I investigate these yamas and niyamas. That I can actually like go hang out with people now and just work on some of these ideas. And it's like, whoa, that's totally shifting the way in which I approach social situations. It was really, really powerful for me.
And I think I just want, for those that are new to yoga, maybe approaching yoga from more of the physical standpoint, what Richard really means when he says there's more yoga in your life when you practice these is that like your world expands where your outer actions can reflect your inner wisdom, and you can really feel a sense of unity and integrity with yourself, which enables you to build confidence, to expand your capacity, to build resilience, to build adaptability, to be a skillful navigator in the world. With your truth and feeling aligned and in flow. So if you've ever been in life and feeling like a flow state, like where time kind of dissipates and like you feel this internal joy and sense of ananda or bliss, this is kind of like what he's talking about, this harmony that you can experience by living by these precepts. And I think that the other piece that he's talking about really has to do with, okay, how can I practice meditation in action? How can I navigate my life skillfully using these tools? So they are ways to enhance your daily relationships and all the challenges and opportunities that you experience with a conscious mind. And when you put your consciousness and your awareness into these, you find that the yoga, like he was saying, really grows and unfolds, and the harmony you experience in your daily life grows as well.
They become almost like living, waking meditations. And so, for example, not just is it for your own benefit. That was the reason that got me doing it. I was like, oh, it's good for me if I do these things. But then I started realizing, oh, it's a huge help to others just by being myself, just by being a yogi. It's making a tremendous impact on the world and on others. And the way I think of it is like, it actually reduces calamity and it reduces the chance for calamity. One of the examples is like non-hoarding. Is one of the yamas, non-hoarding, which means don't take what's not yours and don't take more than you need. And I remember there was a pipeline burst here, and Asheville had it was gonna have a gas shortage, and we had no gas. But it wasn't because we had no gas; it's because people freaked out and like filled up gallons and gallons of gas and just like drove away with it in their pickup truck. So lots of people who needed gas, who needed to go to work the next day, and who had to work all day, and so couldn't get gas. Now they don't have gas, but there's plenty of gas still around. And the pipeline was going to get fixed before we ever needed to have like an actual crisis. But we had a crisis because people didn't practice non-hoarding. And like the yogic mindset is like, just have as much as you need and then let the other folks have as much as they need too. And so you're actually making a huge contribution to the world and society by just practicing these, because if we were practicing that, there would have been enough gas for everybody until the pipeline was fixed. So people could drive their cars and get to their jobs. And it was kind of a big crisis. Like people were having trouble getting to like their job at the hospital because of this when this happened in Nashville. I think something similar happened with during COVID about toilet paper.
Yep.
It was like, oh, look,
That's
toilet,
exactly what came
there
to
was
my
enough
mind.
toilet paper around, but people were
Yeah.
just hoarding it.
Right.
And another one that you can think of is like stealing. They say like non-stealing. Don't take what's not yours. And I applied this actually when I was making a shift in my life, Suzanne, when I was like sort of in this phase of like, am I going to be a yoga teacher? Am I just going to be a practitioner? Like, how do I navigate that? I was working jobs that they weren't for me. And realizing that I was actually taking that by working a job that wasn't for me, I was actually taking a job that was for somebody else. And that was a kind of an aha, like someone else wants that job. And here I am taking it when I don't need it and I don't want it. And so stepping into what is more truthful to myself, it becomes this investigation into who we are as people. It's not just rules or guidelines to follow, but it becomes this, to me, a very sort of spiritual experience of just navigating life in a way that allows us to contribute to society in a positive way by just getting to be who we are.
Beautiful, beautiful. I love that. What would you say your two favorite niyamas and yamas and niyamas?
My two favorite?
Yeah.
Oh,
or is there a single favorite?
Truthfulness, the satya. I love this idea of truthfulness because it's just this way to, satya is the word, the feeling of investigating that. And I love communicating, honestly. I think that's why teaching suits me, is I love I'm saying things and y'all listening. I think Suzanne's listening, but who knows what y'all are hearing, right? Like I'm saying the words and I know what I mean, but then like what is that person hearing? And like where's the truth happening? Is it what I meant, or is it what you heard? Is it some nebulous thing in between? And there's something really powerful about that. And the reason I love teaching is I get a chance to like teach the same subject matter again and again. It's like, wow, each time I get to explore how to be more truthful in how I'm saying it. And there's just something really, really powerful there in this desire to have us understand the same thing and have it be honest and have it be real. And I love that refinement in my speech. It's one of the ways that I get to practice truthfulness is through how I communicate. And then it also, so then that second question, or that sister yama that goes with it, since you did allow me to pick two, I will. It's actually the first yama, which is ahimsa, which means like to not harm. And so how can I be truthful and still be non-harming? Because sometimes, my truth is a little judgy, and that can be sort of harmful. And like, how do I learn how to say this in a way that is easeful and kind and expresses the generosity of my heart? And it's still communicating my honesty. It's still communicating my truth. And so, yeah, I like the when those two work together.
That's a beautiful pairing. And I would say that I'm hearing a lot that this form of communication for you as a teacher, but also just as a practitioner, is really creating connections for you with other people. And because you are so conscious of how to lead from the heart, you can form sincere connections that are rooted in compassion. That's what I've been hearing from you. We have
sounds nice when you say it.
We have a question here from one of our students here or people in the webinar, which is spirituality and spiritual lingo within yoga settings can be such an intimidating element to grapple with. How do you all work to be welcoming to people of different faith and spiritual traditions? And I can start us off with this one, as I recently had an encounter with this. I had posted on Instagram a video of myself doing my daily practice. And what I have is an altar, and I have an altar full of little tchotchkes and all these little statues and pictures of deities and things that inspire me along the journey. And someone was like, "Oh, I remember you. You were baptized Christian. Like, what are you doing here doing your yoga? Come back." And like, what, and I was like, "Oh, very interesting that this is the way that it's perceived." And I really actually appreciated that because it was just a moment to reflect upon the journey. Like, my family is Buddhist from South Korea. And then we came to the US and baptized Christian, studied Catholicism, Methodist, Presbyterian, and then eventually went back to college, studied more Buddhism, and then found yoga, studied some Hinduism, did all the different things. And through this path of learning about all different faiths and traditions, what I came to realize when I came to yoga was that it was an include all and exclude none philosophy, and a way of life that was non-dogmatic, but really focused on kind of just doing the best you can in your day-to-day to be less judgmental, like Richard was saying, more generous, more giving, more compassionate, more truthful, and really imbue some of these yamas and niyamas. So it's a philosophy of life that I found didn't hold a specific lineage. And that's really one of the beauties of our school in particular here at Asheville Yoga Center, is that we have teachers coming from all different lineages that have followed all different traditions. And they're really masters of their craft. They've been practicing for 15 plus years, some of them 30 years or more, and it's really, really been beautiful to see the depth that they have in each of their lineages, but also how they all come together to share the different lineages, but also agree on so many fundamental principles, such as the yamas and niyamas. And that these essential truths will emerge from each one. And regardless of how the prana is transformed, the prana is transformed to experiencing that yoga or that harmony or that growth within. And so it's just really, really, I think it's really, really special what makes this studio special.
Mhm.
Mm.
From our students' perspective, we have, I mean, we're in the South, and we have a lot of students who come in with that concern, and they're in the training already. They're not even hesitant, but they've signed up for the training, and then they're like, and they're okay with it because of what you said. Our teacher base is drawing from different traditions, and a big part of our program is we're giving you technical skills on how to teach if you do the 200-hour. And at the 50 level, and then even still part of the 200, there's just explore. Here's the idea, and what do you think about it? And how does it integrate? And we have often very religious Christians who are coming to the training, and they're having great ahas. They can't wait to bring their teachings and the share the practice at their church. And so I think part of it is the diffusing by having different teachers and different presentation methodologies can be really helpful. And then that it's built in, it's sort of baked into the philosophy of the program to sort of bring out who a person is, that we're not trying to indoctrinate you into the tradition of AYC. It's like, this is a place of learning and of growing. And we're going to provide content that's interesting and intriguing for anyone, anybody to look at, and then honor you for that opinion, for that conclusion that you draw, and support that. And so sometimes I've highly encouraged for people who are really interested in the Sanskrit and understanding the spiritual qualities and how you could link it into the religions of India, like, go for it, pursue it, understand the mythologies. Or if you're, feeling much more comfortable with just the poses in English and the moving and the breathing and making a more physical practice and about having the body feel healthy, go for it and explore that, because there are so many people that need yoga, and there's so many different ways that we can practice yoga. I just want to honor every person who comes into our training. What's going to have them excited? What's going to have them eager and interested to teach, and to let them explore that and express that. And as they near the end of the training, and they're sort of doing their shares, their presentation, their mini classes, they all feel different, because we're sort of hoping that they're tapping into that uniqueness of who they are, whether they're coming from their own religion, or maybe they're even just shy on religion. It's really about health or wellness. That's all fine and all welcome. And it's amazing how the program can really support the bloom of that for any walk.
Yeah. And I think what he's really getting at is that we are here to support your self-realization of you. Not AYC, not any specific lineage, that it's about you growing, discovering who you are, and navigating the transition of your life or transformation from your own personal truth. And so that I think that a lot of students come out of this training feeling like, wow, I didn't think it would be that spiritual, understanding the spirit not being a dogma, but being like an understanding of who they truly are, what their truths are in their lives, and how to lead with integrity in their lives. And that's really, it's pretty awesome to see as they come out. I was wondering if you had any stories of any student experiences with any of these yamas or niyamas that you'd like to share, or of the training whatsoever that you think have been pivotal.
Yeah, I mean, one thing is one of the niyamas that comes to mind is svadhyaya, which sort of means self-study, and we're studying ourselves through something of something that has some bona fide, some credibility, like we're reading a spiritual text of some sort, and it's like how do I come to know myself through having some sort of a credible source that says like, yeah, let's have a subject about who we are, and we can hold that. And svadhyaya I have found to be so powerful because people are coming in often during a transformative time, and sometimes that can be very emotional. There could be a lot going on for that person, or they're just looking for that next thing to kind of sink their teeth into, and they're hungry again. And so many times students walk away and they say, like, I know exactly what I really want to be pursuing now. And they came in confused, and sometimes there's some tears being shed in the classroom as they sort of work through some of that process of letting go of things, because they realize that's not who I am. So in that self-study, they're able to sort of let go. And this is a safe container where there's these hugs and there's tissues, and people are like they're supporting each other in that. And it's like, yeah, like that's just not who I am anymore. Maybe that was never who I was. And now they've got something that's really, really they're passionate for. And it's nothing that we're prescribing or sort of indoctrinating. It's just we're putting the content out there. And because we have so many different teachers, this is another thing that we hear all the time, is that they love hearing sometimes similar content from different perspectives. And that's what gives a person, I think, it's sort of like built into the model of our program. It gives them permission to say, oh, like I can have my own thoughts and my own understandings around this, and I can pursue it in my own way. I can go beyond and outside the program to study this subject, because, well, here's Richard's version and here's Shayla's version, and they're talking about the similar subject, and it's okay for that to have a different feel to it. And that's one of the beauties, I think, of the Asheville Yoga Center, and the diversity of different teachers and their traditions and style.
Awesome. Yeah, I've heard so many stories of the students really having this in-depth spiritual experience of navigating really challenging times, people passing, divorce, and so forth, and being really held in this community where they have friendships that they end up taking with them beyond the training. Some groups have continued beyond the training to do like a weekly meetup where they might study a yoga philosophy book. Some students I know are meeting each other on the regular, going out to lunch or taking classes. Some are becoming besties with other people in the program and so forth. And so, and I would say, just even going back to my 200 and 300 and all the trainings that I've done, that there's a really special place in my heart for the people that I went through these kind of programs with, because they were able to see me let go of some of the things I was holding on to, and then help me find my truth by also sharing their experiences so that I felt safe. The container always felt really safe, and allowed me the space to evolve. And it was really, really wonderful to see the students at the end of each training literally take huge milestones and huge steps into growing personally. It was pretty cool.
One of the one of the niyamas that it's really funny how I see it work is contentment, santosha. And contentment, we always think like it's kind of like a mellow sort of quality, but it's the contentment that leads to like sometimes the best celebrations. Like near the end, when people are sort of like settle, like this is who I am, This is like learning how to have less and not want more, actually realizing who I am is about being simpler. And like one story is one person, they were leaving a big time job. They had enough, and they like drove from California all the way here, and they had basically quit their career. And it was like becoming content, and like they saw that we got to watch that, we build this friendship with this relationship with this individual. And she was like, yeah, like I'm content with this life and this deep love I have for yoga. And she just graduated last year, and she taught in the yoga festival that just happened here in Asheville.
That's awesome.
And so like it creates that contentment, and like the settling down, almost like the simplifying or the easefulness of being who we are, actually opens up celebration and joy, because it's like this outpouring then of what we are versus what we have to strive to try to get. And so we have journeys like that from so many folks, where they're learning how to settle into who they are, become content with, to me, like the beauty of the yogic philosophy.
That's wonderful. We have another question here. How closely do you work with Yoga Alliance? Can you help us pursue certification during or after the training? All the business of yoga stuff is so intimidating.
Yeah, so just to back up again, for those who might not know, Yoga Alliance is sort of like the governing body agency that says like, this is what the standard is going to be for a yoga teacher. And that's where we get these 200-hour teacher training, is sort of like the minimum to be a yoga teacher. And then there's a 300-hour, which 200 plus 300 gets you the 500 hours. So sometimes if you check at your local yoga teacher, those of you who are unfamiliar with this term Yoga Alliance, if you ever see like your favorite yoga teacher probably has like a RYT 200 or RYT 500 after their name, and they're referencing these, it means registered yoga teacher, and it comes out of this Yoga Alliance organization. And so, yeah, we work with them. We're basically, we have our own curriculum. We set what we want to teach, and then we get approved by the Yoga Alliance, of which our school is accredited to be a part of. And I would say most schools nationally are adhering to Yoga Alliance. It's definitely a big thing. If you're going to go to teach at a yoga studio, the studio owner or the manager is going to say, hey, do you have your YA certification? And so our program is linked up. It is YA certified. So you complete our program, do some of the other assignment-y type of things, and then you're good to go. You can apply to be a part of Yoga Alliance. And so that's the main way that we work with Yoga Alliance. Do we help you? Yeah, we basically tell you how to become YA certified. And then the business of yoga stuff, I mean, that's a whole journey in its own. We got to hear a little bit from Suzanne. I've had my own journey with that too, of like teaching in public studios, having my own classes, having my own one-on-one clients, and navigating that. That's a whole thing that we do have a segment built into the 200, and you can study it much more deeply in the 300, where you learn the business of yoga. And we help you really lay down is this just a part of a way to make income? Is it a career? Is it something that you're just doing out of the good charity of your heart? I mean, there's so many different paths you can take for teaching yoga, that part of it's first understanding what you want out of it. And then, yeah, we can absolutely help navigate some of those choice matrices based on the goal of the individual.
Yeah, and I would say it's individually focused, right? And based upon the individual's goals, as we're here to support you and your evolution and your truth, essentially, and you aligning to that truth. And so for some people, that's a continuation of their private practice and an evolution. You might see an acupuncturist or a body worker, a sound healer include yoga as part of their offerings in their personal practice. You might see people leading retreats. You might see people just teaching yoga to the homeless, or people deciding to volunteer their time at schools or volunteer their time at work. The path that you choose, you define, and you define how far you want to go with it. And as long as you're true to your heart, that, then you're on the right path for you. And we are here to help you discover that and understand how to carve that out, and maybe some of the steps to take along the way, for sure.
And that's not a marketing pitch. Like, as you were saying this, I'm picturing faces. Like that happens so often. Like they're like, I'm a massage therapist. And now I know like one student in particular, like she went back to her massage therapy group. It was a group of individuals, and she had there was like the way that the building was set up, there was a bigger room, and she started doing yoga classes in that room. So it's tethered right into her massage group practice that she has. We have another face that comes to mind is like they were a therapist, a counselor, and now they're using some of the yoga techniques, the breathing exercises that they learned in training to directly help their clients. So it's stories like that all the time. Physical therapists, absolutely a lot of overlap there as well. A lot of physical therapists take the training just to learn other modalities and methods, because they're realizing sometimes it's just the physical part. They want to work with the nervous system a little bit, just the breathing work. And then people who are like making total shifts, they're like, now they're starting their own classes, or maybe they're opening up their own studio. Yeah, there's so many different ways you can take this this work, this gift. For a while, for many years on the same day, I would teach at a retirement home, people who were upwards of sometimes 100 years old. And then in that afternoon, I would teach to people who were 12 years old. It was like, it's like a totally different thing. I was teaching at a retirement home, and I was teaching at a middle school, and it was just like all happening.
That's interesting. Yeah. I mean, it was like inner city, then bougie, like it was like just testing it out for a while to find out where I wanted to be, because I wasn't quite sure. Right. But yeah, we're here to certainly help you find what that path is. So I guess from the next question is like, what do the trainings look like from a day-to-day perspective? Are we focusing on the physical practice? Are there times to engage in group activity and discussion with you all as well? What does a day in the life of a yoga trainee look like?
Yeah. Should we take a moment here to just, as a part of this question, sort of like explain the 50 and the 200 a little more structurally?
That's a
slightly different
great
answer.
idea. Yeah, we'll do that. Yeah, let's explain those.
Okay, so we have our 200-hour program is, we break it up. You can do the 50-hour as its own standalone thing, and that can be as 2 weekends or a whole week long. And that is for the person who may or may not want to teach, but they certainly want to deepen their practice. And they just want to like take this time to really like get into the yoga, get into the exploratory aspect of it, meet people who are also really into yoga, and just kind of chill and enjoy and sort of steep in a little more of the yoga philosophy. That said, there's still tons of breathing. There's still tons of asana happening every single session. So each session, we as a school, we were like, all right, what do we need to do for this? Like adult learning, right? We want people to like feel engaged, not bored, And so every session, it was like a 4-hour chunk of time, is going to have movement, asana, like a class sort of, it's a class, but it's, tailored into the bigger scope of things. Then there's maybe even a little bit of a breakdown of the poses where we're working with partners or in a small group, or just thinking about the details of an individual pose. So there's a segment on that usually. Then there's a breath work or a meditation or some sort of group exercise where there's communication or you're sharing. So at the 50 level, that's usually some sort of introspection. Let's talk about ahimsa today, and let's think about ahimsa and what are some journal prompts or a conversation that we can have around ahimsa. And then there would be sometimes a lecture, a presentation from the teacher where you're getting some of that philosophy and that information level, or the history of yoga, for example, as in like a lecture-based sort of, I say lecture, but I mean like genuinely deeply engaging TED Talk level,
TED Talk
level content here. And so we want that whole time period to feel very like engaging and transitioning, keeping the energy active. And there's breaks in between, and there's a lunch hour, and then we do something in the afternoon. And then so it's got that flow at the 50-hour level. And it's fairly similar in terms of structure. That amount of asana, that amount of so sort of engaged learning, we call it, whether that's like a discussion, journaling, group practice. And then there's like that lecture, information gathering. And so you can think of it as thirds. So each section has an even amount of all three of those things. And then in the 200-hour, and so now the 200-hour, right? We just talked about the 50, that's 50 hours. The 200 is really, it includes that 50, or if you've already done a 50, you kind of like jump in a quarter of the way through. And so you're getting the same content actually. Even if you take the 200, you're still getting that immersive dive into being a yogi, because we consider it essential in order to be a teacher. You have to be a yogi to be a teacher. They don't, it's one, the yogi comes first, the teacher comes
Right.
second.
Yeah.
And so the teaching is like learning the skills of like being a yogi. So at the 200 level, we then take those next 3 weeks or those next 6 weekends to finish out. And now we start, it's still that same amount of pacing. There's asana every day, movement. There's engaged learning where we're communicating, working together, learning skills. And there's some sort of like lecture-based content where you're just learning information that way, note-taking. I'm a big fan of note-taking. And so we just tailor it to suit that 200-hour, yes, you're learning these teachable skills now, whereas in the 50, it's the deepen your own practice journey. But it all suits the final aim of the 200, which is that you can become a registered yoga teacher with Yoga Alliance.
Absolutely. And I would say that what I've noticed is people refer to the 50-hour kind of as like a self-care retreat, almost a great way for people that want to have a personal home practice or start to learn about some of the foundations of yoga philosophy, as well as asana and meditation and pranayama as part of their lives. They might have working jobs. They might find this as a way to imbue balance into their everyday lives by developing that home practice. And then the 200 hours, kind of that depth journey. It's just you go deeper, you advance your personal practice, you just keep going inwards so that you can expand outwards even more so, whether that be through the way you skillfully navigate your relationships or the way that you live the teachings or the way that you teach as well. And so I think that they both go hand in hand. But you can decide like how much time you have, what really is available to you as far as scheduling, life, work, all that kind of stuff. And then what your goals are. Like, do you want to take that deep dive, or do you want to start and take a bite size and then explore, right? And so that's entirely up to you how you curate that experience for yourself. I will say that a lot of let's talk a little bit about what's included with the programs. So like with the programs, with your investment, do you want to talk a little bit about the different pieces? We have sequence charts, pranayama charts, meditation charts. We've got booklets. We've got online learning portal where recordings are put. What else do we have? Let's see.
The materials,
yeah,
we next leveled that, I gotta say. Ayur Prana, the AI Institute, they have come in and they've just done such a wonderful job giving us this really great resource mechanism, giving you a great resource mechanism. So to help make teaching easy. And there's a great booklet. There's these sequence charts for actually in the 200-hour, they get almost 3 different levels of sequences where you learn how to know them all. And then there's 9 different pranayams that are like written out very clear how to do them and then how to teach them if you go to the 2. So at the 50 level, there's the 50-hour, there's a 20-minute home practice that you get that we work on throughout the week or the 2 weekends, and then the 8 pranayams. Then at the 200-hour level, we build upon that sequence with 3 full-length hour-long classes that you learn how to teach. And then those same 9 pranayams, we learn how to not just practice them, but how to teach them or share them. And then in addition to that, you also learn, I think it's like 8 or 9 different meditations that you'll also learn how to teach and share throughout the program. And so these are all put into like really simple, I think they're really well done, clean, clear materials of packets and sequence charts and whatnot.
And I'll also say that we have affiliations with Ayur Prana and the Ayurvedic Institute and the Ayur Prana Listening Room. They are now part of our family here at AYC, which means you get specialty classes from Ayurvedic teachers, or you might get specialty kirtan from world-renowned kirtan artists. And so there's a lot of symbiosis between the entities as well as between our teachers in bringing a really top-notch curriculum to you that has world-renowned masters in it, which is pretty rad. And in addition to that, as we start to close, I just wanted to let you know of some of the discounts that are available to you right now. If you are looking to enroll right now for the 50-hour, we're running a $50 off discount. And we are also running for the 200-hour a $200 off discount. And I just want to share this slide with you because I want to make sure that I get it correct here. So if you look at this slide here, you're going to see that for the first 50 yoga foundations, you can save $50, and the next start date would be August 14th to 18th. There are also more 50-hour foundation programs running in October and November, but the next one's in August where this discount applies. And there is a welcome code, I believe it's webinar thank you 50, and we'll email that to you after if you registered. If not, please go to our website and register, and or email me, Suzanne at youryoga.com, and I'll help you get registered and get your discount there. And then the next start date for the next 200 hours, October 9th through November 3rd. And that start date's October 9th, and you can save $374 right now, which is pretty awesome. So you're welcome to register. You can visit our website at youryoga.com. You can book a call with me through all the links on the website. You'll see I'm kind of like a bobblehead on the website right now. I'm going to shift that soon. But anyways, you can book a call with me at any time. Email me, Suzanne at youryoga.com, and I'll answer any additional questions you might have. I'd like to leave the last few minutes for any questions you may have, though, about anything that we've discussed or any curiosities you may have.
Me?
Them.
Oh, any questions I have? Well, they think of a question. One thing that I'll say is really just taking a moment, like y'all should do it, right? It's if you're in a yoga, do it. It's like you're gonna benefit. But one thing that to consider in that choice is the format that works best for you. Now, sometimes that's decided for you. You're just too busy to do, or you have things going on that you can't do a week at a time or 4 weeks in a row. And that choice has already been made for you. The weekend model works best. It's every other weekend. So at the 50 level, it's every other weekend. It's 2 weekends with 1 weekend in the middle where you have off. And then if you do the 200, it's every other weekend, 8 total weekends. So it's over the course of 16 weeks. And so sometimes, again, your schedule might make that decision for you. But if you have the choice, something for you to consider is how those affect the learning experience. The immersion is immersive. Like you are yoga all the time for either a week straight, it's 8 hours a day, and then you're going home and you're resting, like, and then or if it's 4 weeks, it's for 4 weeks, Monday through Friday, it's yoga, yoga, yoga. And so for some, that's an amazing way because you can make tons of shifts during that time. Mm-hmm. You're just like bathing in everyone being all about yoga all day long. Everyone you know is all about yoga all day long. And that can be a really, really powerful way to learn and get motivated and bring out that inner teacher or that inner sharer of yoga. And then the other model is the every other weekend model, where that can very much be, it has a little bit more of like, okay, now I'm going back to my day, my life, and how do I absorb and digest just that 2 days or that weekend's worth of content? Okay, I've absorbed that, and now I'm doing another weekend, and I've absorbed that. And so it's a little bit that staggering, really affects how the content gets digested. As a teacher, I love teaching both, and people can get a lot out of it and become a deeper yogi and a yoga teacher with either model. That's the reason we offer both models. But for certain learning styles, you might have a preference.
Yeah, absolutely. And in addition, it's offered hybrid, so both online and in person. We encourage you attend live regardless, live stream online or live in person. And the more you can be in person, obviously, the more engaging the experience will be and the more connected you may feel with your community. Some people that can't do it all in person might do a little bit in person, do some online, come back and visit and reconnect with the community again. So that's also an option. In addition, we have payment plans and we also have scholarship assistance. So if you go to our website, youryoga.com, you'll see that there's a drop down under the teacher trainings tab that says scholarships. And that's where you put your scholarship application in. And you don't have to write like a 20-page paper or anything like that to be considered. Just write a simple, sincere statement and we'll review it and get back to you hopefully within the business week, essentially. And so ideally what we have are payment plans, and these are all due before the start of the training. So let's say you wanted to start in January, then starting around now would give you like a 5-month payment plan. But if you were to start closer to November, it would be like, or October, it would be like a 2 or 3 month payment plan, depending. So just keeping that in mind, as it is an investment, and to honor where you're at so that you can progress through it and feel comfortable and still navigate life skillfully in that way. So that's all I have. Do you have any other questions, y'all? I just want to say hi to all the people that are coming in still. Mindful Yoga with Alma, what is that, Janine Roop, and Create Life Vision and Vision Healing. Welcome. All of this content's going to be available to you if you just register through our website. You can get access to this webinar. You can also email Suzanne at youryoga.com and I'll send you the video recording. Is there anything you'd like to say before we close?
Y'all should do it. The 50 and the 200.
I would say no one ever regrets it. That's what I've noticed, is no one regrets it. And I've actually heard people be like, just do it. You might be thinking about it. You might be worried, but it's the best decision you can make.
It's good on a personal journey. And you just, how often do you get to be in a room for that much time where everyone in the room has that kind of the similar love for yoga as you? There's not many rooms that you get in where that's the case. And so it's just a real blessing, and I would be honored and humbled to get to share the practice with you. Hope to see you there.
Yeah, it's certainly a gift to give yourself. And so give it to yourself because you deserve it. All right. Well, you all have a wonderful day. Thank you so much for joining us. Namaste. Take care.
Namaste.
All right. End here.